Yes. It's the Tim McKernan Show podcast. The holiday edition, QFTA, and the way we celebrate the holidays on this podcast is Chairman Kurt comes in. Hi, Chairman Kurt.
Hi.
Welcome in.
This is a pleasure.
Yeah, you got a sound that's 11:21, and you got a sound story at 12:30. So that allows us to do QFTA. Jackson's excited because there's a hard out, so I can't do a 3-hour show. Yep. And we just tend to the business. I'm just going to hit retweet. I'm not going to have a cute boy gif. And I hate to not have a cute boy gif. But you're welcome to get involved. Any topic is welcome. Chairman Kurt is going to do the program with me and Jackson today. And we got about 45 minutes to maximize. Is Frank Cusimano's the one coming here doing the sound story?
Correct.
All right. So that's what we've got for you here on today's program. Anything pressing for anybody? Anything's welcome on this program. I mean, fire away. Profanity. Jackson, you want to air out a bar that you went to that had bad audio delays? Chairman Kurt, you want to talk about the ladies in Columbus, Ohio? I can talk about vomiting. We got it all.
I can tell you that I think right now is a time where people are probably off work a little bit, might be hanging around. They might be wanting to, fire up a movie. And
erotic story?
They might want to fire up an erotic story. If you're looking to watch a movie over the next couple of days, I've been watching a lot recently. A lot of good stuff out there.
Okay, I actually am looking for this. Is a nice little, I got to tell you, this has got news I can use.
A couple suggestions that are within my top 20 of the year. Juror number 2 just came out on Friday. That's Clint Eastwood's new movie.
Okay.
If you like a courtroom drama, highly recommend. A movie called Snack Shack on Amazon Prime. Fantastic coming-of-age story. Love Snack Shack.
What goes on in Snack Shack? A loose outline of the plot.
2 late high schoolers, so like going into junior year of high school, get the Snack Shack at their local pool. They get to run it, and they start a business. And they also fall in love with the same girl. And
then they have the less popular.
Well, less so the less popular, but they do have a love triangle, and it's really, really good.
You're a big advocate for love triangle movies, I've noticed.
Yeah, Challenger is my favorite movie of the year. That's all love triangle. A movie called Strange Darling is one of my top 5 favorite movies of the year. You might have to pay the $3.99 on Apple for that one. Okay. Worth every penny. Okay. And then one more, Carry On, Netflix. Really easy genre.
I saw that because I was looking last night for a film to watch, and it's Jason Bateman and what's the
Taron Egerton and Jason Bateman. Essentially, it's a really easy plot. Jason Bateman wants to get a piece of luggage through security, knowing that something nefarious is in that package, and so he's going to essentially blackmail one of the TSA workers. And let's just say he blackmails the wrong guy.
Oh.
Very die-hardy, because it's an action movie at Christmas. It has a die-hard element, but it also has a very John McClane feel to it.
Ah.
So it's an easy watch. Jason Bateman's always a pleasure. So yeah, those 3. 4.
Mike Flanagan, who handles the TMA merch shop, says, "Hey guys, Merry Christmas. The merch rush is over and all orders are done. What a year. Congrats on all the success. Don't watch Carry On. It was a snoozer."
Disagree, Mike, but that's all right. We can have disagreement. I thought Carry On was a very engaging, simple watch. It wasn't anything that's going to melt your mind, but it's fun.
While at home, and I'm telling you, I didn't get into this on TMA this morning, but I think I'm over it. But I went on the vomit comet last Tuesday night. Chairman Kurt, to give you an exact time, I think the vomit came up at 1 in the morning Wednesday, but the comet arrived, and it was clear it arrived at around 10 o'clock on Tuesday night.
Okay, taking notes.
All right. Still felt awful on, of course, Wednesday. Thursday came in just because I had told Jennings' longtime girlfriend, Amy, that we were going to do the fundraiser for Annie's Hope, so I was like, no matter what, I got to come in. Came in on Friday. In a normal world, I would not have done that. Went home, 11:45 to 4:30. I slept that afternoon. My wife thought I was avoiding the family, and I'm like, I was asleep in the basement that whole time.
Right.
Then you got the big Joey Vitale party.
Right.
The cocktail party of the year on Saturday night. It's 6 o'clock, and I said to my wife, 6 o'clock on Saturday. Now, I got sick on Tuesday. And I said to my wife, I said, would you just want to go by yourself? I still feel like I could throw up. Now, I hadn't thrown up since the comet on Wednesday morning. Still going.
Brutal.
Still going.
Brutal.
And I'm like, you know what? I can go. I mean, he lives super close. I can go, and
worst comes to
she's
worst.
like, gonna be kind of weird because it's a parents' party, you know. If like she just shows up, all dolled up,
Yeah.
you know, and then I started having drinks, and this is great. This is how you fix your problems. This booze. So then I don't go to bed, which is really rare for me, until 2:30. Anna Marie and I are just in the kitchen because the boys were staying with her parents. And it's like 2 a.m. and we're drunk and I'm eating pizza. And I'm like, this is what my life was like not that long ago. So I slept until 10:30. But then I'm like, am I hungover or am I sick?
Right.
And so I text poor fucking Jackson last night. I don't know what time, 9 o'clock.
No.
And I don't like to do that because I don't know what time you're going to bed, even though I imagine you're on Do Not Disturb. So it doesn't matter. And I said, I hate to tell you this, but I feel like I could throw up. And I know Doug's out.
Right.
I don't know what to do. Like, I'll come in, but then at the same time, like, if I come in and I'm actually still contagious and now it's the holidays and I get you guys sick, like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Tough spot.
So when the alarm went off this morning, and I think I texted you, like, within, like, first few minutes, I'm like, I'm good. Because just in case you were like, oh, fuck, if this guy's out,
Yeah.
God help, you know.
It'd be an interesting one.
So fortunately, and I'm like, I think I'm good. So I've got my eyes on going to the Village to have a feast tonight.
Nice.
Because it's the first time since last Tuesday that eating a bunch of food sounds good to me. Sober, that is.
Right.
But, and I was just out talking to the sales staff, which is the reason we're late. I'm motherfucking these two on TMA. Like, if we say 11:10, we do 11:10. If we say 11:15, we do 11:15. I'm out there talking to the sales staff. It's 11:21, and these two guys are sitting here going, "Where's this asshole? Total fraud." But one of our sales managers walks by and she goes, how are you feeling? I go, I'm still a little rough, but I think I'm better. She goes, I've been going for 7 days with this. But I think hers is more like the congestion.
Right.
Mine was vomit comet, nauseous. And I've never had nauseous for 6 days in my life. I don't even think when I was a kid. So if you are in the audience and you're listening to this, you are not like Doug's wife. We were talking about it.
Yeah.
She was ill. I don't know if she's still dealing with it, but last week on Friday goes, yeah, she's been dealing with it. I guess this is truly going around.
Yeah.
And then as, of course, you know, many parents know, your kids go to school and they get sick and they bring it home, and that's the deal. I'm sure your dad dealt with that on a regular basis.
All the time.
An educator.
Yeah, and Christmas, always around this time because people are congregating inside only, you know.
A lot of orgies.
A lot of orgies. Yeah, right now people are getting in their orgies. Not only that, their get-togethers. Sometimes get-togethers turn into orgies. You never know. But pathogens are flying around, and people are staying close quarters inside due to cold weather. It's just inevitable.
Yeah,
and it
it's gonna
sucks.
happen.
It sucks. But the nauseous thing is the worst. Like,
Oh.
if it was just congestion or like a runny nose or even a cough,
That's a winter tradition. The
Yeah.
nauseous stuff, I just kept saying, I'm like, okay, is there something like bigger than
that's
just-
debilitating. Like you can't move around.
And then to not want to eat.
Yeah, that's another. And then you have no energy.
Oh, my
It
God.
compounds on itself. Then you can't sleep right at night. It sucks. I hate to hear it for you.
It was brutal. Oh, you should see my Whoop numbers. Oh, if you could see my Whoop numbers. Just terrible recoveries on the Whoop, as you might imagine. Get involved in the YouTube chat. Plenty of people are in there. That is wonderful. You can ask anything. And we also welcome you to send emails in. T. McKernan at InsideSTL.com. Chairman Kurt, anything on the top of your dossier? Fresh off of your trip to Columbus, Ohio?
Not really. I mean, that was a lot of fun getting to see a historic stadium like that. Didn't really experience any of the tailgating or anything.
So what time did you arrive in Columbus? That game kicked off. It was
8 o'clock Eastern.
8 o'clock Eastern.
I think I got there around 6:30, and the parking situation there isn't great. So I had a 1.5 mile walk from my spot to the stadium.
Wow.
In freezing cold temperature.
Yeah. So got in there with about 25 minutes to kick off. Left when the game was pretty much convincingly under wraps there in the fourth. Tried to beat the traffic heading out, and so it made for a late night. Pulled back up to my South City house at 5:15 Sunday morning. So I was a zombie yesterday.
Wow, yeah, I can imagine.
Was
Glad
he-
you did it.
Oh yeah, big
awesome.
time. I was
That's awesome.
talking to my dad about going, and he couldn't make it happen, but I wanted to go anyway. And
What is the drive? 6.5?
just a hair over 6.
Okay.
But I was thinking, you know, as much as I'd love to see that happen at Faroe or Mizzou make it and play a road game, if there's games that are drivable, I might make this a little December tradition.
God bless America.
Sure. That's awesome. What do you listen to in the car on a 6-hour ride? What's on your menu?
I'm a big podcast guy. Did a little bit of music, but caught up on some of the college game day podcast.
Yeah, I love that podcast.
I don't love that SEC podcast, but it's different.
I wonder if it has staying power, because it was probably good because like, oh, here's two, Southern boys just kind of talking, and then it's like if I want meat, for lack of a better term, that ain't the one I'm going to.
No, that's not where you're going. And during the season when Mizzou's in the SEC stretch of the schedule, that's fine to listen to because you're getting all the SEC perspective. But they didn't really even touch on a lot of the playoff outside of
Tennessee. Probably.
Yeah, the Tennessee game, and a little bit talking about Georgia and Carson Beck. But pardon my take, the Joe Budden podcast. All podcasts, pretty much the whole drive.
All right, I'm going to go to some emails because, like I said, we're on the clock here with a sound story coming up. Hey, boys, Marcia's Burner here. I wanted to write in so I can rip Jackson for not doing his job. I requested to join the TMA fan page shortly after you guys came on 101. I now have an email of the day win under my belt. What else do I need to do to get in? I started listening to Balloon Party the summer of 2022, about the time of Soto and Kachuk trade talks. I started listening to this show sometime in 2023. I knew about TMA, but didn't really have the time to podcast that much, so never really got into it. I'm glad the show came to 101. I really enjoy the program. I also enjoy texting into the show. Sorry, Jackson, you've definitely taken some shrapnel from my texts. Hell, you took some earlier in this very email. Blame Tim. That's what he likes to read. Keep up the great work, guys. Happy holidays. That's from Marcia's Burner.
Right. Well, the best thing there is telling. I assume you're not signing up as Marcia's Burner. Therefore, it's tough.
Yeah,
for me
let me
to
go
know
into the queue for the. I was actually thinking it might be time to. I can't hire somebody because there's no revenue, so therefore this would be a bad P&L pro forma. But like if somebody wanted to take on the responsibility of being the moderator of that thing, because I had a situation, it was within the month, but it wasn't like a week or two ago, so like within the last 4 weeks, in which I'm like, oh, I'm about to be sued for a Facebook page that I got nothing to do with, that doesn't bring in any money, because of something that was posted by somebody, and I was talking about it with a couple of people, both here at Hubbard, then and outside, and they go, why do you like have it then? Which was an incredible, like if there is downside and there is not upside, then why do you have it?
Right.
And I always say I think it's got value, but you can't get in a spot where but you and I aren't on it.
Right.
And so how, therefore, is it getting moderated if somebody is posting something, what we had happen a few weeks ago? I guess it was probably late November. I don't know. So, yeah, but I mean, I'm not going to go, I'm not even going to pay $100. I'm not, so it's like a labor of love for somebody. And then it's got to be the right person, because what happens is whoever the moderator is becomes the bad guy. You become one of the C-suite people, so to speak, and now you're automatically the bad guy. So it's not a job that really has a lot of upside, because if you pull something, then it becomes like a Supreme Court case, and it's just so I don't know what the fuck to do on it. But when that happened, and I don't want to go into the details of what it was, but the person who contacted me about it was not a fan page member, but had it sent to them, and they were furious. And I said, I will take it down. Was completely unaware. I apologize. And fortunately, they were super cool about it. But I'm like, yeah, I think they might have grounds to do something. And then I can imagine like getting deposed for this. Be like, yeah, I don't look at it, so I don't know. And they go, what the fuck? And then in court, they'd go, what the fuck are you doing? Much less like people who advise me, who are kind of like, well, why do you keep it? So I don't know. You got any solutions? Any ideas?
Oh man, yeah. So I hope there's probably someone out there who could, comb through it and not be, sometimes you give people power, gets to your head a little bit, then you start throwing around your weight. I think there's somebody out there who could do a good enough just to keep.
It's a thankless job. I can't represent it otherwise.
Right, but it would be like, it wouldn't even have to be like you have to like monitor, like check every 30 minutes. It'd be like if you see something that could be a problem, alerting either you or me to it promptly, and then it can be taken care of before things go sideways.
I found Marcia's Burner's request. He did request 7 weeks ago. Shows how often this gets updated.
Yeah,
He's in.
Welcome, Marcius Burner.
You're into the TMA fan page. Enjoy. God bless. Let's see what we got going on here on the YouTube chat. I'll do it, Tim. I've got nothing to do. That's from Jake Reynolds. Jake Reynolds is a special spirit. He's a pure spirit, and I don't want him. Here's my analogy. Gabby Carter shows up on the scene and does anal in her first scene. And you're like, short term, I'm pretty excited about that. But long term, I knew it wasn't in Gabby's best interest.
Right.
Matter of fact, we had her on the program. It was the morning of the Blues and Stars. Was that Game 5, Jackson, in 2019?
That's right.
It's Friday night game.
Yeah, big game.
And I remember asking her in that interview, which we were doing from Blondie's in downtown St. Louis in May of 2019, doing anal in your first scene. Little surprising. She goes, well, I just wanted to do it because I like it. And hey, great answer.
Right.
A year or two later, she's doing an interview and she says, yeah, I really should have done anal in the first scene. Jake Reynolds, this is your anal scene.
But I will say, moderating the fan page does feel like what I imagine anal sex feels like sometimes.
I actually think there's more upside in receiving anal.
Yeah, probably. There's a G spot there. Nothing. You got
It could be the title of the podcast.
There's a G spot there. Yeah, there's no G spot around the fan page. I'll tell you that much.
So I don't know. Like Jake's too beautiful. Like he's a beautiful spirit.
Yeah.
And it'd take him down. It'd take him down. He'd become one of us, and I don't want to see it happen.
No. Yeah, I think Jake could do a lot of wonderful things in this world. I don't think moderating the fan page is for him. But that's not a shot. It's actually
it's a compliment. Right. Yeah. It's a compliment.
Yeah.
Let's see what I got here. Landman is only good because Turnpike is in the soundtrack. Do you recommend Landman?
No. I don't recommend a lot of Taylor Sheridan's work.
Jackie is the only one that I've seen that's liked Carry On.
I don't think that's the case at all.
Jake Reynolds.
No, I've talked to people who really liked it. It's
Have
hard.
you seen this, Chairman Kurt? I haven't seen it.
I've never even heard of this.
It's not like it was like one of the most watched movies on Netflix of the month. It's really,
all right.
It's just like it's like Die Hard a little bit. It's really easy, 2 hours. I don't think it's like world breaking. Like I think I have it in like 18 or 19 on my list, but I thought it was 19. I have it at 19.
19, of course.
Yeah, and I didn't.
What's number one?
Challengers.
And that's because you like the MMF.
It's just awesome.
Was that Zendaya?
Yeah, Zendaya. Yeah, it's awesome. That movie fucking rocks.
Wow.
I couldn't recommend it more. I think.
Do you feel like the MMF's becoming more socially acceptable?
Yeah.
I do too.
Yeah.
But I have no point of reference whatsoever for this.
Yeah. I think group sex just in general is becoming more acceptable.
Also, that could be the title of today's
Group
podcast.
sex is becoming more acceptable. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Yeah. No,
Do you feel that, Chairman Kurt? I mean, you're actually. I mean, I know Jackson's not married, but he's a man in love, and he's been off the market for a year.
Yep.
I've been off the market for nearly 2 decades. Not that there's a hot market for me anyway, and married for 13 years. You're the only one who can speak to this.
I personally haven't.
Yeah, but like when you're interacting with people who are single, you know.
Yeah, I mean, this is just me throwing it out there, but yeah, I would say it seems more socially acceptable now. I think people are willing to try different things, and I would say that's in that category.
At my prom in 1994, and I'm sure plenty of people have heard the story before, and that's fine. I recognize this. But 2 of the best-looking girls at the prom, I think they were both Naring's girls, not Jenna Fisher for the record,
Sure.
started grinding on each other, and then they made out. And we were just like, this is like we all didn't know what to, because it was so unheard of. Mm-hmm. Everybody liked it, but it was unheard of. And by now, I would imagine that probably happens with like 30 different girls at the St. Louis U High prom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
And I just think that's an indication society's going the right way.
I would say. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I think that's one way of noting that. But yeah, a way nonetheless.
There was a lot of that in the Seckman days back in like the 01 through 03. And I remember that we just thought that was the coolest thing.
That's the greatest.
Mm-hmm.
God, I would do anything.
Looking back on it, though, I don't know that Jeff Go Girls would have been the one we were
All right.
hoping to see there, but you don't know any better.
Yeah, you don't care.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we happen to be lucky enough that these were like the 2. Still, it gets referenced occasionally in my group of friends from SLU group chat. I probably am the one who brings it up, honestly.
on this date, 1994.
1994.
Like, Tim, you sent that 2 weeks ago. I know, I wasn't sure on the date. Let's talk about it, though.
What school were would you say the majority of the girls that were in your social circle with your SLU people, what school were they coming from? St. Joe's?
Without question. St. Joe visitation. And so me, as a South City guy who's bussing tables at Pietro's, like, I'm not aware. It's kind of like I think I was saying this to Doug in a commercial break. I mean, therefore you might have been present when I was talking about how I truly was oblivious to the importance of height.
Yep.
I don't even know until when. I don't know. I mean, like sometime in the mid-aughts, which is an amazing thing, but a great thing, like for women, you know, like, I mean, it didn't affect my life in any way. But as like what women find attractive, I didn't realize that, truly didn't realize that. And so therefore I would put pucks on nets on goaltenders that I probably had no business putting pucks on net on.
Right.
And like would confidently put the pucks on net too, which is just fucking nuts. I look back on it. I also didn't realize at that time that there is a very good chance that it didn't matter what I brought to the table. If I'm growing up in South St. Louis and I'm bussing tables on the weekends at Pietro's, it could be anywhere, but I have a job like that, and I'm putting pucks on net with Visitation and St. Joe and some Villa girls, it didn't happen.
Right.
But I had no idea. Now I know it now.
But it's better not to know.
100%.
Better not to know.
100%. 100%. 100%. I needed to be like Rosatiing and Notre Daming and not the South Bend version and St. Elizabething, you know, and DB Proud.
No,
that was the pool that I needed to be in.
Yeah.
And here's my buddy, Dr. Jack Neerman, who's a Golden Griffin, and he lives on the other side of the park from where I live. And he had this, I think it was an 85 Cavalier. Was it an 85 Cavalier?
Yeah, white walls.
Rusted red
Keyed on
with
the passenger
a subwoofer in the back. I mean, just fucking two white hogs making their way to Litzinger Road.
Oh, so you would pull up to these like visitation
yeah.
girls' home
Yeah.
in that jalopy?
Yes.
Oh, Lord.
And I'm young on top of it for my class. Like, I should have been in the class below, but obviously I'm brilliantly intelligent, so I'm playing a year up. And so I'm young, I'm short, I'm poor, and I'm in a rusted out Cavalier with a subwoofer, and it's like, oh, you go to Villa?
Yeah, you walk in.
Hey, I just got done bussing tables and getting sexually harassed by an 80-year-old. What's the word? Can I meet your parents?
Spit on the floors.
And you have no idea.
Right.
I mean, you have no idea. And I look back on it. And so now I try to kind of pass this advice along to my son. And he just has no use for it. But I like want to try to avoid, you know, some of like the obvious misses that maybe my dad was completely oblivious to or just didn't care.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think if you were 2 inches shorter, it might have hit you. But I don't, because I have a buddy who is quite short.
Gareth.
No, Gareth is not tall, but he's probably like an inch shorter than you are.
Okay.
But I have one buddy who is like very short, and like there's no way he knows.
Yeah.
He does well for himself, but he knows.
Really? Does he really? Like, he really does?
Yeah.
What kind of money does he make?
He's done better.
That's the great question, Chairman.
He does.
Kirk.
Yeah, he does well there too.
Like, what are we talking?
He's probably nearing 6 figures. If I had to guess.
But I mean, if you were like, he's making like whatever,
no.
is something like $500,000 a year or something, I'd be like, okay, then now we're understanding the whole program.
He makes good enough money, and he's let me just say, he's been with a girl who all of us sought after in college.
Wow. Yeah. Is this guy well hung?
Don't know on that.
Clip that off.
Don't know on that. I don't want to venture a guess even.
I went to many Viz parties off Warson, and the girls were wearing like ball gowns and drinking martinis. Shocking difference from all the feminists I usually hung out with at Nearings. That's from old Tuftsy.
What?
I honestly don't even think I knew the schools St. Joe's, Visitation, and Villa existed until adulthood. Like, a couple of my buddies dated, I think, a Nearix girl, maybe a Koriezu girl, but I didn't even hear of those other ones until adulthood.
That for me would be like, if I was doing well, I'd be at a Nearings dance, Koriezu dance, or Ursuline. And I did go to those dances. But I never was invited to a St. Joe, Villa, or Visitation. And it wasn't even in play.
Yeah.
And I didn't really think anything of it, but now I look back on it, and I go, "Oh, and I also understand. I'm not like mad. I just get it, and I didn't get it then.
Right.
And I'm like, I also have nothing in common. Like, I'm in the early 90s as a white guy, mid 90s, loving rap. That was really not common at St. Louis U High. It was all about either the grunge scene, obviously, but still the same thing that probably goes on now. Grateful Dead, Fish,
Right.
jam bands. I mean, probably more Grateful Dead because Jerry Garcia didn't die until I was out of high school.
Right.
That was the scene. And here I am, and I'm driving along with a guy with a subwoofer and the bass.
Adidas jogging suit, Run DMC pounding.
And I'm sure they're just like, oh, that's cute. We're hanging out with some poor people.
Yeah. Run TMC.
Look at us. look how philanthropic we are. We're letting the poorest come to our party.
Well, yeah, you're bumping on Litzinger Road in that fucking Lemon subwoofer in
The
the back.
subwoofer costs more than the gentleman's vehicle.
Yeah, I was gonna say they take up the whole trunk
Oh, it
with
was unbelievable.
subwoofer.
Unbelievable. It absolutely. It was a big box
South
in the back. Oh,
South City kids are here.
I mean, what did they have to think?
The Chronic is
Like, I would
blasting.
love to like be able to view this through those eyes and be like, I wonder what the hell they thought. You know?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. The idea of even like for me, like going to another school's dance was just something like we didn't. I guess maybe some of the cooler kids did, but I sure didn't like go to any because obviously having both boys and girls,
Right.
but. Like that was like never even a thing because those girls were hanging out with Chaminade,
Yeah.
U High, maybe a Vianney or two, no DB, maybe some Desmet, but definitely U High and Chaminade.
Yeah. That's all. So when
for
people
us.
would talk about, oh, what was it like to go to school with girls? I think it was actually probably super productive for all the parties. But then we had a bunch of girls' schools. Now in Kansas City, they do not have.
All boys and all girls.
Well, they have. I think they have Rockhurst and St. Teresa's. I think, and I'm not trying to offend Kansas City. I'm just saying. I believe that's what it is. And so it's a different deal because now you're kind of all in on that. And if you've got bad reputation at the one girls' school, now you got a problem.
Yeah, definitely.
Here we can diversify and alienate the schools one by one. You know,
Right.
So I was
Check
one,
them off the
I was
list.
one to do. Erin in St. Chuck, and she has pierced nipples, and she says, "Ooh, 3 cute boys today." Wow. I bet she has the Hitachi magic wand out right now and is watching this and can't get enough.
How many people do you think out there right now are masturbating
Flip that off.
while listening to this?
There's the title.
How many do you think?
That are watching this podcast, there's 46, so I'd say 46.
Well, if they're not doing it,
I think Henshin just finished, 45.
okay, if they're not doing it right now, have concrete plans to do it later. You know,
Like people are planning out when they're going to beat off.
You know, I bet the
Or
number-
Aaron in St. Chuck is planning out when she brings out the.
I bet the number right now is higher than the typical Monday just because the time of the year.
What I'm
People
saying.
are off work,
Right.
they're at home.
They
Maybe
might have family coming. In-laws are coming in. At
Get it out
7,
now while you have time.
At 7,
that right? Really?
Kids go down for the nap at 4. Can I squeeze in a squeeze?
Can I squeeze in a squeeze?
You know, because in-laws are going to be staying in the house. Probably not a great time to make whoopee. And so and people got to get do what they got to do.
Aaron in St. Chuck just sent in a little smiling emoji, so I guess that means that she is. When you've put on
Your
the
hand on the face in exasperation.
I guess that means that she's in. When you've put on the white tux, you've most likely been to multiple dances at the girls' schools. Salad days. That's from Old Tufsy. Old Tufsy's a UI guy.
Nice.
God bless. Yeah, I mean it's in Old Tufsy. I'm sure would acknowledge this. It's not necessarily an accomplishment. It's just it'd almost be weird if we went to a dance at a Ladue or take your pick, or a DeBerg for that matter. It doesn't matter.
That would happen sometimes where a girl would bring a guy
From one of the
like
all
Chaminade,
boys
and I was
schools.
like, "What? We're not good enough for you?"
got insecure
But as
about it.
public because
What are they gonna do?
our yards, our in-ground swimming pool don't go 8 feet; they only go 6 feet.
Is that what it is?
We're not good enough,
We had a little beef with the Northwest boys back in the day.
Northwest Hot Springs?
Yeah, the Seckman guys and the Northwest guys were battling over some of the girls there.
Where's Northwest?
Out Highway 30,
Highway 30.
which maybe you may have never been on it in your life,
I
possibly.
think that's live, Jackson.
64, 44, and even that was later in life. 270. That's it. Highway 170. Those are the only highways I know.
170s as far as you'll go.
Well, those are the highways I knew growing up.
Got it.
30 or K, I'm not really positive on.
You ever been on Old May Ferry?
No.
You've never been to Seckman?
No?
Well, I thought maybe Ladue would have been in the Christmas tournament there.
No, Christmas tournament was at MICDS.
Pardon the
What's
hell
it
out
like,
of me.
man?
Yeah.
What's it like getting dunked on? That's what goes on in here. It's what goes on in here.
I'm trying to think of like the further Melville. We played a game at Melville once.
Marcana,
Yeah.
Evergreen Wealth Strategies,
I've been to Melville.
sponsor of the podcast, evergreenstl.com. And Seth Goldcamp, Design Air Heating and Cooling, online at designairservice.com. And Jamie Burkhardt, and Peter Mungenest, and Ryan Seiberg. Mungenest, St. Louis Acura, Mungenest Burkhardt, Alton Toyota, and James Carlton, who was in today, 314-961-4800, online at carltoninsurance.net. If your insurance costs like an arm, call James Carlton, State Farm. All right, boys, we can land the plane if you want. I'm happy to talk about anything. I'll talk about anything. I know there's a sound story coming up. It's Christmas. What are you going to do? I mean, do you get to get out of here?
No. After this, I got some work. I've done a good job of being
We got to
vigilant.
record a million commercials. Me and you got to record a million.
We got to record some lives, but
Chairman, we call that a good problem to have, though.
Absolutely.
You better have that problem, or else you'll be looking for something else to do. Jackie Papers.
Bingo. But I've done a good enough. Like the best of for Christmas is already taken care of. I took care of that. Scheduling TMA all day. Got to do a little bit of that. Some other stuff to make sure that Kurt is good for Thursday and Friday. But
Yeah, what do you think about running the board on Thursday and Friday?
I feel better today now that I did before today's show. Him letting me do that segment and getting a rep on, underneath.
more where
me.
that came from tomorrow. I'm planning on a whole hour of you.
Oh, are you going out and getting fucked up tonight? Gonna be all hungover? Is that the deal?
No. Not
There's
today.
nothing wrong with that if that's it.
No, I'm not. That's not the case. Tuesday, I might have a little taste.
Some nog.
My sister's birthday is December 24th, so it's kind of fun. We all gonna get together for like a pre-Christmas.
Are you all three? I know this will sound ridiculous. Are all three of you Jewish?
No, just me and my mom.
So it was a good question.
Yeah, great question.
Thank you. Because I knew that there was like a different situation.
It is a different situation. But my family, my father, brother, sister, all the kids, they've embraced Hanukkah very much. And it's just, Hanukkah's a very it's not like a super religious holiday. It's just kind of a celebratory celebration of lights. It's the festival of lights. And so it's really easy to celebrate. And it happens to be the first night is on Christmas night. So it's kind of perfect.
Oh, that just timed out that way this year, though.
Yes, because it's a
not
lunar
normal.
calendar. There's been times where it's been like a couple days after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, super early.
Or even like starting at it goes into January.
I didn't know it could go into January, really.
I guess technically it will go on January 1st this year, but
You'll celebrate with a Boise State win.
that'd be great. Ashton Genty, that'd be a nice 8th night of Hanukkah present. I'd like to put a little wager on them. I lost this weekend.
Did you?
Vols money line.
All right, that's not a bad bet.
No, it's not. I parlayed that with Penn State -4 in the first half, so that was no sweat there.
What's the name of the running back who had the 98-yard touchdown for Notre Dame, went to fire up CB?
Love.
Thank you. I had him over 87.5 yards.
Yeah, take care of that real quick.
And I was texting with the Colonel was texting about something with me. And I go, oh, sweet. I mean, it's a $25 bet. I don't really give a shit. And I go, oh, sweet. It's nice when I love, because he was texting about love. And I said, oh, it's nice. My bet just covered. The first quarter, he goes, nothing against you, but I'm going to hope somehow he loses 11 yards over the next 3 quarters just so I can laugh at you. That's the Colonel right there for you.
Oh, when I saw that, I was like, Indiana is not going to win. When you let up a touchdown like that, like on an outside run, and the guy breaks it off for 98 yards, it's
Reminded me of that first carry of the second half against A&M for Mizzou.
yeah.
I mean, not as long, but
That
just
guy's name,
untouched.
Moss?
yeah, that game, that one hurt my soul watching.
You agree with me that if Missouri's 10-2 and beats South Carolina, they don't get in?
No,
You don't agree with me?
no, I don't think they get in.
Okay, so you agree with me. Do
Yeah.
you agree with me on that?
Unfortunately, yeah, probably.
I mean, it's not like we are like we don't want them in. I'm just telling you like how it would have played out.
Right.
They would not have gotten in. It just would not have happened.
Well, and that's why when I created that silly chart thing in there, I thought the only possibility was finding that way to the SEC championship and winning it through that. I didn't think they were getting one of the at-large ones. 100%
right. Or because again, Alabama and A&M would have had to have like 2 losses.
Yeah, you would have
between
needed to.
Missouris.
Yeah,
It just wasn't going to happen.
Right.
I was really disappointed. I'm telling you, I was really disappointed in Gabe for acquiescing on that.
I know.
It was like at 2 Brute when I saw him go, okay, you guys are right. I'm like, no, they're not. Don't give in to the fucking message board, dude. We're past that in our lives.
Especially because if you beat South Carolina, that then lessens the South Carolina win.
That's
a
that
4-loss
part's
South
right.
Carolina
Yes,
team.
that's exactly right. You couldn't clean up the A&M and Alabama things.
More
Once
so
the Alabama
A&M.
thing, it was over.
Yeah.
It just was over. There's nothing that you can fucking do, which sucks. Hey, fun year. God bless America. But I also don't feel like if Missouri would have gotten in, I wouldn't have expected them to put anybody in any given day, truly. But I wouldn't have expected them to They just didn't have it this year for whatever reason. Hey, God bless. They were fine.
Yeah.
I think if they would have had, I don't want to say Florida's schedule, but I don't know what was more of a
Oklahoma's schedule.
Oklahoma's schedule was brutal. I'm talking about like one that wasn't as egregious as Florida or Oklahoma.
Tennessee had a pretty.
I was actually going to use Tennessee as an example.
Yeah, because it's pretty similar actually.
Yeah, when James was talking about them having 3 or 4 of the high quality wins, I looked it up after, and I didn't see one that just floored
Tennessee?
me. Yeah,
right. I thought Tennessee. My whole thing with Tennessee, because I'm like, I don't mind you taking Tennessee. Tennessee. My skepticism in Tennessee was about how can you lose to Arkansas? But again, weird things can happen. Saturday night road game. I understand that. But they were at home jacking around with Florida, and that was before Florida got it right.
Right.
And I feel like there was another one, and I'm not even counting Vanderbilt because that was a first quarter deal, and then it turned around. But I felt like there was another one. I'm just like
Mississippi State. Did they mess around with Mississippi State a little bit?
33-14 was the final there.
Yeah, but that for all I know, they were messing around.
I mean, the Oklahoma game was on the road. They beat them by 10.
They beat them handily, though. That game was over.
I don't know.
Early.
The Kentucky game at home was close.
That probably was what it was.
28-18 final there. But
I think that's the one I was thinking about. But that's the thing with Georgia. Georgia also had some hand job sessions themselves.
Georgia Tech being the prime
Georgia
example.
Tech, but Georgia Tech's the one everybody knows about.
Kentucky.
Yeah, they fucked around in Kentucky.
That's the thing, and I'm just like, okay. Therefore, I just, for the life of me, and I told you guys, I think it's before we started, but maybe it's while we started. Hell, it doesn't matter. That the podcast that I love listening to, and I'm not done with it, is SVP and Stanford Steve. That's where I get some.
I heard you on that one this morning. I got to put that in the rotation.
Oh, it's so good. It's also it's got a little bit of a TMA, like they're just bullshitting
They're all
flair
friends,
to it.
And that's
It's good, but then there's also some substance there as opposed to And again, I find that SEC podcast amusing, but I'm not like going there for. It's at this point, it's like who donated $5 in the YouTube chat, and hey, God bless. I know these guys don't have sponsors and a sales staff,
and I don't think they try to present themselves.
No. It's entertaining, but I'm telling you, like when I see the Stanford Steve and Scott Van Pelt drop, I'm like, I can't wait to listen to it. But I was listening to SVP talking about the quote controversy over the weekend. I don't know what the solution is to the quote problem. You see what I'm saying? I don't like Indiana really wasn't getting litigated all that much after the brackets came out. SMU was, but Indiana was in the same category from my standpoint. If you're looking at, okay, there isn't a great win, but you're not going to keep them out. And if you are going to keep them out, then God, you got a real problem. And then if you're going to keep them out, then Missouri at some point is a non-brand name is going to have a real problem.
Right.
Missouri season might come down to one game, and it doesn't matter because Indiana. That's the thing. That's what Gabe and I were texting about. Usually, when a team beats the shit out of teams, that's the tell. Usually, when a team and Indiana beat the shit out of everybody minus Michigan.
Yeah, their margin of victory this year is crazy.
They beat the shit out of teams. And so I'm like, okay, maybe, I don't know. I mean, it'd be fun if they're good. But I just can't. You can't. That's why I watch the line play, because that's usually what separates it,
Right.
And so what was interesting to me is where the lines you would think be relatively similar, the game you were at, and maybe you were able to actually watch it because you weren't watching it on television, so you could focus in. Tennessee and Ohio State, they should be comparable. That Nico's on the run.
Yeah,
he's going through his progressions, 1, 2, 3, and now he's on the run, and then there's already a guy on him. I mean, that was just, and that's the talent that Ohio State has, in addition to the fact that I think they have the best wide receiver in the country, in Jeremiah Smith. They're otherworldly. I just think it was Ryan Day trying to show Michigan he could run the ball on them, which is just so nuts because he's like, we're so much better than them. We're just going to shove it down their throats and fuck them up. And maybe I'm off on that. I don't know.
Do you see any world where Georgia looks elite with this unproven core? Like, could they
Sure.
be? Yeah.
Their offensive line is so good.
Sure.
They move people around.
Yeah,
really well.
Georgia could be a great value play right now. But the issue is that how much value are you getting on a team that's, third overall to win the thing right now, odds-wise? Because I think they might be fourth. It might be Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, and Georgia right now as far as the odds go. I appreciate you looking that up, Chairman. But again, you're not getting like long odds like I've got with Boise State, and I've also got some Arizona State, not because I think they're going to win, but because I was getting long odds, and I can get a little sweat out of it for fun. But if you gave me of any of the underdogs, and I don't consider Notre Dame or Ohio State or Oregon if they're the underdog, to like be real underdogs, if you give me out of the two underdogs, I like Boise State's chances way better than Arizona State's. You love Kenny D, but do you like their chances, or
No,
do you?
because of how I get to it. Like the theme for me this weekend was the teams that were dominant were, and I know it's like basic football, but like dominating the offensive and defensive line. Like they were getting pressure on the quarterback they were playing, and they were keeping their quarterbacks upright. And Texas defensive line is gross.
It's
like
so
they're
good.
so good. And Arizona State, for as much as I like them, and Cam Scalabo is probably the best kind of running back to go up against a defensive line like that because he can shed tackles and absorb contact. But even then, like that's just one part of the game, and you can't can't have turnovers. Texas loves forcing turnovers. I love Kenny D, but I don't think it's Arizona State. I just don't think so.
What I'm looking at, Notre Dame and Georgia both plus 550, the fifth out of 8
Notre
longest
Dame's got
odds.
value. I like Riley Leonard a lot, man. He's a good ball player. And again, their defensive line is also really good. There was one play where this poor Indiana left tackle, I mean, he just got dog walked. Like the guy moved him away like it was like I was up on the line. It was crazy. This Notre Dame guy was like 6'7". He just crushed him. I was like, oh my God, how is Indiana supposed to even compete in a game like this? And turns out they didn't.
Alan Dadeville, big Georgia fan, says O-line has been hammered by injuries until the Tennessee game too. Theory inside the program is there will be less drops with Gunner versus Beck because he throws the ball about 10 to 15 miles an hour less.
There's something about that. About softer. Some receivers like a guy who puts a little bit more air under it.
Any of the 4 teams on the bottom of the bracket, and I visualize the bracket. I know some people I look at it from right and left, which would be Penn State, Boise, Notre Dame, Georgia. I feel like couldn't be there. I do not feel like Arizona State can be there. I feel like Texas, Oregon, Ohio State can be there. I'd love it, though, if Arizona State got there. I also realize I'm probably one of the only people outside of those in Idaho who are looking at Boise State as a threat. But that's where I see value. And hey, man, they might go up against Penn State and just get run off the field, and they're big enough to just go, okay, here you go, run Ashton Genty all day long. We're going to stop them. So see if you can throw on us, and they'll just beat the shit out of them, and that's absolutely possible. But I'm like, hey, Oregon got a chance to do it in Eugene, but teams certainly change over the course of a season. You can't get caught up on. There was a Clemson team that won the national championship. I don't recall which one it was. That was garbage early on in the year, and by the end of the year, they were firing on all cylinders. And I remember kind of going as a college football fan to not get caught up on what happens in August and September and judge a team by that. And really, similar to like we see in baseball, the team that's hot, which is why I wanted to see South Carolina get a shot, because I'm like, Lenora Sellers is Jaden Daniels in a different way. I keep saying Jaden Daniels, which isn't fair because it's certainly a different style, but inescapable in the pocket for defenses to try to trap. And you've got a team that hot playing with that kind of confidence. I would have loved to have seen them go to South Bend or go to Happy Valley or go to Columbus or wherever the fuck else they were, Austin.
Chairman talked about this, and I think it's a great idea, and I think South Carolina would be a prime candidate, like a play-in game. Like you have one spot open, and you take the 2 teams, like the committee decides like the 2 teams that they would want to see like play a neutral site game where it's win or go home, and you could take South Carolina and you could take, I don't know, Miami, and go up against each other, and that winner gets the last spot.
Yeah,
I think that would be so cool.
They just happen to be in the same conference this year, but we were talking a South Carolina Ole Miss play-in like bubble style game there would have just been electric to get that last spot.
And then some would go, well, they already played, and Ole Miss beat them by 24. I'm like, Lenora Sellers wasn't healthy though. Right. I mean, he played, but he was not the guy that he was by the end of the year. Either way, I mean, I frame things through my bias of wanting to see South Carolina, and I know you can poke all kinds of holes in it, which is what Chuckles Marlowe was pointing out today. How great is it when Chuckles on the show?
Every time.
Is the greatest?
It's awesome.
People, and I'd have no problem with revisiting things that I know I've talked about before as far as TMA stuff. So if you got TMA questions, happy to answer them. But when we knew the 101 thing was going to happen, Charlie was the one that I would say to Tommy, because candidly, I'm like, well, there's no way in the world Martin's going to keep doing TV and then get up and do radio, never thinking it was possible. And I'm like, that's the guy. That's the guy.
Yeah.
I know you were, but your favorite TMA lineup was the Charlie lineup, right?
Yes,
Me,
yes. You, Doug, Charlie.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I think he might be interested. And he's like, I got this thing going with the Kenny Wallace, right?
Yes.
Because I just don't really want, and also his wife, has a career and is successful, and they've got 2 young kids. He just really didn't want to do it. Right. So then it got into the possibility of him. He said, I'll do 1, maybe 2 days a week if they're interested in that. And then I'm like, okay, well then we can bring in maybe Martin for 1 or 2 days, and the Cat 1 or 2 days, and Wellington 1 or 2 days, and Gluten Free Perk 1 or 2 days, and just have like a rotation. Cam, 1 or 2 days, whatever. And I'm like, I love that idea. Mm-hmm. Love that idea. So anyway, that's because people go, why isn't Charlie on the show more? I'm like, well, because he didn't want to. It's kind of.
But he dropped by this morning. And...
Well, yeah, but I mean, he didn't want to, not because he didn't want to do the show, because he don't want to do it.
Right.
He doesn't, like. Why don't you do local TV? I have zero interest. I don't know if there's enough money to get me to go do local television.
I might make a burner email and email you once a week that people are
go back on Channel 4.
People are clamoring. I'll say, like, me and my friends, we got together.
We want to watch you on local. Me and my friends love local news.
Yeah, we're all in our early 20s, and we desperately miss you on television. We were 3 when you were on, but we really miss you on
my uncle, who... I mean, he's like, my dad is the positive version of that, even though I know the impression doesn't sound like it's real positive. So imagine my uncle, and anytime I see him, and maybe I'll see him here over the next 48 hours for the holidays, but certainly Thanksgiving, because he loves my mom's cooking, he'll pop up. Never been married. Mm-hmm. I don't know, I probably shouldn't give his age, but you would never guess how old he is. I mean, I'm lucky. The genes I have. Yeah. Because it's nuts, and he'll see me, and it's been 20 years since I left. I mean, it'll be 20 years in February since I did local television, which fucks me up, man, but whatever. And he goes, boy, buddy, you made a good call on leaving that TV. I thought you were crazy. He goes, every time I turn it on, there's some new kid on there. He goes, boy, that was a smart move, buddy. He goes, what a fucking joke that industry is.
Well, tough to argue, but,
I go, to me it was kind of, but hey, to each their own. There's some. Martin's still doing it. Martin was doing it way before I even showed up to town. I don't know what year he even got here, man. Maybe mid-90s. Fuck, I don't know. He's I think he's 8 years older than me, so he could have been here in the early 90s for that matter. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, it's different for everybody, but certainly if you're like my age or younger, and you're looking to make a lot of money, probably not the industry. But you can get exposure. How can you get exposure?
Jake Reynolds goes into one of his sad yearning for the past posts. I'd love to hear Iggy more, but since TMA is more sports-centric now, he doesn't have a place on TMA anymore. It's kind of sad. Jake, I need to look at it. They're changing the clock. Now, I can tell you this, and so I don't want to tell you the dates anymore because we've been told dates, and for good reasons, unfortunately, it hasn't happened. But once the clock changes, I'm telling you, it will be more of what you are used to. We can't get into nonsense when it's like, hey, Tim, you got to break. I mean, today we got to 8:30, and me and Martin always go, what segment are we going into? Because we just assume we're behind. Yeah. And you go, we're going into 8:03, which means the third segment at 8 o'clock hour. And we both were like, holy shit. Because staying on the clock. But it's like you got to get in. It's like having flights to Chicago nonstop.
Right. Yeah.
You're up and you're down when you're used to flying like from New York to LA.
Right.
That's what we're dealing. That's what we're dealing with.
Right.
And I do not believe, that's what I was out there talking with the sales staff about, actually, the clocks, that people are like doing this intentionally. There has been, which is one of the reasons Iggy isn't here, reductions. And I think that has played a role in how quickly they've been able to update the clock. Now, it puts me and anybody else who's talked with clients or the audience in a weird spot because I know what we were told, and I value my credibility with the audience and with the advertisers. And it was one date, then it became November 23rd, then I think it became December 9th. Now it's I was told last week January 6th or January 13th, but I'm not going to go running around because at this point I become the boy who cried wolf.
Right.
I think people know I'm not making it up, but who knows? But I'm just telling you that once we don't have to hit breaks every however many minutes, it changes the dynamic of the show. The blues interviews are supposed to change. That's not like we go, hey, now that we're on 101, let's do blues interviews all the time. If people think that that's what this is, that's unfortunate, because I'd like to think after so many years of doing what we do, you would know what we do. And it's not like, oh, we're on 101. Sweet, let's do something that we don't want to do just because we're on 101.
Right.
I'd like to think, and I haven't gotten that for the record, but people don't necessarily reach out to me with questions. Jake Reynolds, however, to his credit, does. That's why Jake and I actually got on the phone, I don't know, 2 months ago about it. But no, the show, if anything, they want the show to be less sports than it is.
Right.
As crazy as that might sound to what I think the narrative might be, that now it's a sports show. The issue is the clock. The issue is the clock, and once the clock isn't going, okay, you got to land in Chicago every day, and it's more like you can fly from St. Louis to Phoenix, which isn't flying New York to L.A., but it's still
a good flight.
Then it changes the dynamic. But hey, man, I'm privy to this information, and I know people in the audience aren't privy to this information. But I can tell you that it wasn't like, hey, when you guys go to 101, you got to stop jacking around. But I think people were so holy shit. TMA listeners were like, holy shit, they're going to 101. It's going to be sports, and so you can't fight through what it's like when somebody frames something one way on social media, and then somebody's like, oh, that's not what happened, and it becomes like a whole work to try to get back to that which is the truth.
Right.
If they would have said, hey, you're going to go to 101, and we want you to do an all-sports show, I'd go like, not interested.
No.
Just real simple. No. It was, we want you to go to 101 because we want it to become more like TMA. The issue is it's tough to do TMA when you're flying back and forth, to Chicago, because you're up in the air and you're down. Can't do a real free-flowing segment. So, I mean, that's the truth. But hey, listen, once you tell people the clock's going to change on November 23rd and it doesn't happen, I get people being skeptical. Then you say December 9th, was that the one that it was next? And then it doesn't happen. So now at this point, even though I got an email last week that it was going to be January 6th or January 13th, I'm not going to I'll talk about it on this podcast, but I'm not going to
run to the air for it.
I'm not going to go on 101 and say it. I'm not going to, post on my social media, which is a gift depot.
It is a gift depot.
And say it. But for those of you who listen to this podcast, there is the information. And once it was explained to me as why it's happened that way, I totally get it. There's essentially one person trafficking, which means handling the commercial breaks and commercials for KC95, 105.7 The Point, 101 ESPN, 106.5 The Arch, 92.3, and still
TMA.
HD too, which brings in $0. And I guess some old school TMA listeners might like it, but it brings in no money. And then you ever want to look for what's on the chopping block, find the guy or the business that makes no money. So hey, that's the deal. So if anything, like I always say, you want people to care. And so there is the backstory. Let's see. Jake Reynolds. I was fighting for Jackie this morning, stating in the YouTube chat that due to the clock, it's hard to get drops in when you can't go off the rails. I understand. I'm not 100% Bluesier, but I have actually really enjoyed the interviews. I'm surprised by that. That is from Jake Reynolds. I think for you, Jackson, on the drops, it's because of you're involved in the segments maybe more?
That's part of, if I want to do a drop, I can't really, Martin can't ask me a question. I'll have to turn completely around so I can talk into the mic.
It's so weird, though, with me, Doug, and Martin there. I did do a show by myself. You obviously were there with me for Balloon Party, and a key part of it, I want to make that clear, the key, actually, to that show's success. But that you're more involved in the conversation now than when it was Iggy, Doug, and me.
Yeah, but also, you can see here where this is where I would sit when I play drops. I can talk on conversation. I'm playing drops
Is there any way to do anything like that there?
Not with
the setup?
I mean, the board is twice the size as this board, and there's a massive monitor behind it. No, unlikely that I could be able to do that. I mean, I guess I could like try to move the mic around, but it's not long enough. And, so no, I don't really think that there's a real solution in that. So, but when there's Doug Martin and Tim there, it's much easier for me to go over and just be focused on drops. But when it's just you, me, and Martin, or just you, me, and Doug, like, it's likely that I'm going to be a little bit more involved in the conversation. Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to do both at the same time. On top of, I mean, I also have other stuff that I have to keep track of and make sure we're doing. So it just gets a little tight.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. I love playing drops. It's like one of my favorite things to do. But also, like, in terms of like, if we're talking like about Nolan Arenado and his future, like, I don't think it's great to like fire a Bam gerbil drop, like, or if someone's like on like a serious take, like or like Kerber's on, like, I'm not going to hammer like a Francesa drop.
Like, I think the plan is for us to do 2, segments per hour. Right. But I also know there's reasons why that might be difficult. At the very least, it's going down to 3 commercial breaks, and possibly 2. And it's not like I will say this. This has been surprising because almost everything that happened when the announcement came and like the first few weeks of the show. I mean, I sat here with Jackson, Chairman Kurt, and I know you weren't in here, and I said the show that everybody has been bitching about for the last however many months, will be romanticized as the glory days in a matter of 48 hours.
Yep. That's exactly what happened.
Well, yeah, but I mean, and I guess maybe it's surprising to you, but for me, I'm like, I've lived this, so I know it, and I'm not saying I'm all-knowing. It's only because this is what I do, and so I've seen it. So it's a bit boring to me. It's like, be honest and don't get caught up in a bubble and looking for likes, but whatever, it's fine. That comes with the territory. That's the gig. It's fine. But the one thing that I will say that is like surprising is I think that the audience is at a point where they recognize, like, I'm not calling the shots here,
Right.
and maybe it's because we're on a station that, like, okay, clearly he can't possibly own that, because if he did, he'd live in Huntley,
right.
Or I'd take a jet in each day and commute from somewhere. So I think people get it. Hey, if we could do it our way, we would do exactly what we were doing here, and by here I mean we're in the TMA studio when we do this, and there just have to be some changes. It's just they have had a reduction in staff across the board in this industry, so it's not limited to Hubbard, St. Louis. It's across the board in this industry, and so now you have one person doing the job of like what used to be 3 or 4.
3, at least 3,
and therefore things just take a lot longer.
Yep.
So that's
nature of the beast, man.
Yeah, it's the reality of it. Anyway, all right. I know there's a sound story coming up, so we got to get going. Thank you to everybody for listening to the podcast, and Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to one and all. For Jackson Bennett Burkett, for Chairman Kurt, I'm Tim McKernan. This has been the Tim McKernan Show podcast.